Welcome, everyone. I'm Katie. I'm a Mickaboo volunteer, just like everyone who you're going to meet here today. Um, Before we begin, let me just tell you a little bit about Mickaboo. We are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to education and care for companion birds and to their rescue and adoption. We are a virtual organization and volunteer based, and we have over 350 birds in our care and no paid staff. We rely on donations to be able to serve the birds, and the vast majority of our expenses are related to their care. Our veterinary bills average $40,000 to $50,000 a month. This is for a couple of reasons. One, newly adopted or newly rescued birds come from a variety of situations, and they may require significant medical attention. If they have been strays who were near starvation, if they accrued trauma in a neglectful home, or maybe by being attacked by another pet. Sometimes birds are surrendered to us, frankly, because they are ill and their owners are unable to care for them. And we're happy to step in and help, but it does take money. Another reason our vet bills are so high is that some birds tend to have health problems that mean they stay in foster care for a long time. So we continue to keep responsibility for their medical bills. Or they may be hospice situations where we're helping them have a good quality end of life. And again, as with humans, that can be expensive. So if you're able to help, please do consider donating. At the end of this presentation, I will give you a link so that you can do that if you're interested in it. But now let's talk about the reason you're here, which is to meet our birds and to possibly adopt or foster through us. So let's talk about how that process works. It takes a while. That's the first thing I'd like to make sure that you know and understand. Typically right now, it's about 12 weeks. And a lot of that is just getting people's schedules aligned. This is both the good and the bad of being a volunteer-based organization. We have to have people available, and you have to be available to do the various steps of our process. The first one is to take our basic bird care class. It's free, it's online, it's offered every 2 weeks, and in fact, the next session will be next Saturday, April 3rd. In it, we cover a lot of topics, including good nutrition, good toys, understanding parrot behavior, and just how to care for your bird as effectively as possible. After you take the class, we have an online application that you'll fill out, and then you'll be ready for the next step, which is a phone screen between you and a Mickaboo volunteer. This is an opportunity for us to understand you better, and also for you to speak one-on-one with a Mickaboo volunteer to understand us better. During the phone screen, we're going to ask about sort of what you're looking for in a bird, clarify anything that was unclear on your application, ascertain that you understood what you learned in the bird care class, and reinforce the important things that we've been telling you about bird care. Then comes a home visit. With COVID-19, this is a virtual process by video, and it's not really an inspection of your home or your lifestyle. Please don't take it that way. Our priority is to make sure that we're providing a good forever home for our birds, and someone with fresh eyes may spot hazards that you're not aware of. We can help you pick a good place for a cage, see just how your home and your lifestyle runs and what kind of environment you can provide for a bird so that we can help you make it as good as possible. Parrots live a long time, and we really want to make sure that they are going to have a healthy and happy life with you, and that you are going to have a sustainable sort of routine that you provide for them. Then comes meeting the birds, and that's really the fun part. That's done in part through these virtual adoption fairs. And I imagine that some of you are here with specific birds in mind. So welcome. We're really glad that you're thinking about adopting. Some of you are further from that point right now. But when you're getting there, in addition to the adoption fairs, there are recordings of birds that have been in fairs before that you can watch. You can meet with the birds and foster parents in a variety of ways, including video chats, perhaps an outdoor socially distanced visit. And sort of working with our volunteers, we'll try to help you find a bird or a group of birds that's a good match for your household. The specific arrangements are really going to depend on the particular birds involved, your needs, the foster homes, so I can't be too specific. Finally, when it's time to bring a bird into your home, we're doing no-touch handoffs. So someone will bring the bird to you, or you will meet them somewhere, and they'll set the carrier with the bird down in a safe location and step away, masked, so that you can step forward and take the bird and transfer it into your home, your cage, and then bring the carrier back to them so they can take it home. We can do similar things with cages if there's a cage that's being transported or something else. So that's how the process works. And again, we're welcome to those of you who are in the process and those of you who are thinking about starting it. Today, we're going to meet several Nicaboo birds who are looking for forever homes. And so in order, first, we're going to meet Cirrus and Sapphire, a pair of Mickaboo Budgies, followed by Bubbles and Pepper, two more of Nicaboo's Budgies. Then we're going to meet Basil and Liza, a pair of Cockatiels, Pila, a ringneck parakeet, and lastly, Chico and Zoe, a pair of our Amazon parrots. We'll introduce each bird and their foster person so you can learn more about them. And as we go, if you have questions about any of the birds, please type them into the Q&A tab in Zoom, or if you're watching on Facebook, you can type your questions in with the video live stream there, and we'll do our best to answer the questions while we're interviewing the bird and their foster home. So first, we're going to meet Cirrus and Sapphire, a pair of Nicaboo Budgies, and their person, Susanna. So welcome,
Hi.
Susanna.
Hi everybody. I'd like to introduce.
Yes. To see these two, can you tell us a little bit about them?
We have here two female Budgies. In front, it's Sapphire, and behind, it's Cirrus. I've had Cirrus only since February, and Sapphire I've had for about two years.
I see. It looks like they're pretty comfortable sharing a cage together.
They are, it's interesting, their behavior always is in flux. And I think both of them are fairly dominant birds. Mm-hmm. And so usually when they first fly to the cage, there'll be a little bit of squawking.
I see. So can you tell us a little bit about how old they are? Are these boys or girls? Do we know?
These, they're both girls, and we have no idea about the ages. Okay. Cirrus was a surrender from an owner who had had her for 2 years, and when her companion was lost, she was very, very lonely, and this surrender wanted her to find a new flock. Mm-hmm. Sapphire was a budgie that flew to a bird feeder down in San Jose, and the owners brought her in, and kept her for about 2 years. Other birds kept flying to that bird feeder as well, and they just couldn't take care of so many.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Somebody must have had an insecure aviary in their neighborhood or something.
Yes, luckily it stopped. But so it's very hard to know what budgie ages are. Generally, you only know when they're very young, and they'll have little stripes on their head. Mm-hmm. Right now, we know they're mature. The cere above their beak is a little bit brown. Mm-hmm. And that also changes, throughout their life. And maybe, I don't know if you can see, they're molting right now.
Oh, I can't see that, but I can imagine you have a lot of little blue feathers in your house then.
They look very scruffy right now.
Oh, it's not apparent from this distance. They look very cute. So can you tell us, are either of these birds at all tame? Are they ones that might be friendly with children or adults, or are they more bird oriented?
So Cirrus is, neither of them are completely tame. Mm-hmm. Sapphire is very used to me, and she'll jump on my arm when my arm is in the cage, moving around bowls and water. Mm-hmm. And Cirrus is a little less forthright, but she's very food motivated. And so I'm going to put my hand in the cage right now, and we'll just see. I don't think they'll want to share. And so
look at that.
But I think Sapphire will fly away once Cirrus comes.
Oh,
so
cool.
they're not, they're not completely friends, but it's that's a human word, and they have a different relationship.
Sure. I think one thing that would be good for us to mention now is that in the wild, budgies live in huge flocks, and they have very dynamic social relationships with a lot of other budgies. So having, some are going to be your best friends, and some are just going to be, nice neighbors, as maybe these two are.
Whoops. So you just saw Sapphire try to nip Cirrus's tail a little bit.
Oh, yes, I believe. Isn't that a little bit of a habit she's got?
Yes. And it's funny. I don't know exactly what it means, but she tends to do that. They both are very good eaters. I'll spray some water on the fennel behind, and we'll see if they start hanging on it. They eat pellets in the morning, and they eat seed at night. Sapphire is a little bit, let's see if she will do anything. Sometimes this is one way they take a spritz bath. So they're fighting, or not fighting is the wrong word. You can see, yes, you can see that Cirrus has a big chest there. And that's a little bit of an abnormal air sac.
Oh.
We plan on doing getting an x-ray to rule out any disease. She doesn't have any abnormal behaviors or sounds. And so it could be just the way she is.
So, well, there's an example of the reason why we have the vet bills that we do, that for all of our birds, when we see a medical need, we do seek medical care for the bird. We have relationships with a number of avian vets in the Bay Area. And sounds like she'll be on her way to see one of them soon. So I see you said that's fennel that they have hanging in the back?
That's hanging fennel. And they really, like to nibble. Again, I don't know how much food it's not like they consume a lot of it, but they like to nibble throughout the day.
Are there other vegetables that they like to play with or eat?
They will eat, a little bit of kale, parsley, broccoli. They like to chew the stems of broccoli. And that's a tip I learned from fellow Mickaboo foster, is that sometimes you have to present the vegetables in a different way for the budgies to play with it. And it's often, they're just sort of experimenting. They use their mouths in a way to communicate and experiment. And so Sapphire, for instance, you'll see she has a really long beak there. It's a little hard to see. And that could indicate that she's had a poor diet in the past. When I first started caring for her, I did get her beak trimmed at the veterinarian twice, about 3 months apart. And it's been about a year now since she's seen a vet, but I think it's longer, and I should probably get her beak trimmed again.
I see.
But her diet is, one thought is that the beaks take around 6 months to grow out. And as her diet improves, she'll regain a normal beak length. And hopefully she'll rub it against that cement perch. And so here's a little bit of their power play going on.
Well, that's really good to see, because we have a couple of audience questions about their interactions with other birds. One is, could they be added to another flock?
Yes. And I right now they're missing their cage mate Maglio, whom I'm also fostering. She just chirped in the background. I'm giving Maglia medicine, so she's in a smaller cage, so she's easier to catch. And when Maglia is in, her personality changes the dynamic of these two. So absolutely, I think these girls would do great in a flock. And I think it would bring out different aspects of their personality. For instance, Cirrus and Maglia share the food bowl, like, you know, cheek to cheek. And but Sapphire will not share the food bowl like that. They eat separately.
Interesting. Another question, are their noise volumes different between male and female budgies? And I'll say that in my experience, no, they are all not particularly loud, but they, you know, they kind of, they have a more continuous noise all day.
In my experience, we have one male budgie and he's very loud, and I think it could be his personality. And I think these two girls are more on the quiet side. And so their chirps are very soft. Right before the affair started, Cirrus had her head tucked behind her wing in the back, and she was making the sweetest, softest little chirps. And so there's definitely times of day when they're loud and soft, but I think these two particular girls individually, I think they're quiet, on the quiet side.
So another question from the audience: could they be trained to step up on a finger? And my thought is probably so.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sapphire will step up on my finger now, but the thing is, I don't know if she would fly to my finger from across the room. And then Cirrus, as I said before, is very food motivated. She's first to the bowl, and she'll even go to the other bowl to make sure there's nothing better in it. And so when you have a bird that's very food motivated, that's a way to reinforce positive behaviors with treats.
Okay. Another audience question of what is the life expectancy for a budgie? And I'll preface that by saying it depends a lot on their health and care. Nutrition and exercise, just like for humans, are really important. But we find at Mickaboo that about from 8 to 15, possibly up to 20 years of age is their lifespan. So knowing that these two girls were a couple of years old maybe and have been with you for a bit now, they still have quite a life ahead of them, presumably.
Yes, I would agree.
Before we move on to our next budgie guests, are there any last things that you'd like to tell us about Cirrus and Sapphire?
I would just like to say that I'm always learning from them. Even though Sapphire does tend to tweak the longest tail of the nearby bird, she's so gentle with us when we put our finger, you know, through the bars. It's like an elephant trunk in a sense. She's just very, very gentle in that sense. So anyway, I'm just delighted to be able to learn from these two. They're very beautiful.
Well, thank you, Susanna, and thank you, Cirrus and Sapphire. It's been lovely meeting you. And now we are going to go and meet Amy and her foster budgies, Bubbles and Pepper, and we're meeting them separately. So Amy, could you tell us who we're meeting first here?
We are meeting Bubbles, and I am trying to get Bubbles into the camera. Bubbles, come on, baby. Whoops.
Oh, there she is.
Sorry to move around. Yeah. Bubbles is a special needs bird. Came into Mickaboo through a local veterinarian for the birds, which is our avian vet, with a broken wing. And I think it was the clavicle that was broken. It was quite a mess in terms of the injury, but the bones have healed, and so she's as healed as she's going to be, but she cannot use the left wing to fly. But as you see, she gets along quite well in the cage, and I have her, and I have a number of different perches for her. She's also very good at just climbing, hanging on to the side of the cage.
Mm-hmm.
So, we think she's young. We know she's young because when she came in, she still had the little stripes on her forehead, and that has grown out now. So her forehead is yellow. Hopefully, turn around. Oh, there we go. See you a little bit better.
I see she has that cute little white spot on the back of her head. A lot of budgies have a spot like that in their.
Right. Yeah, she's adorable, really. Yeah. I wasn't sure in the beginning if she was going to be a male or a female. She was just too young to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I had her cage next to the cage of my two boys, which are my own budgies.
Mm-hmm.
One of my budgies just took a liking to her. It was the cutest thing. They just sat on the edges of their cages as close to each other as they could get and talked all the time. So I decided to put Bubbles in with the boys, even though it was a flight cage, and just see how well she could handle it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just great. But
okay, so despite the broken wing and the sort of long-term effects on her wing mobility, she can handle living in a regular flight cage with other budgies?
Yes, she did just fine. Now, I did put in a few extra perches and a couple of extra ladders and ways for her to get around. She liked having a flat perch for some reason, but she often sat on the flat perch. But yes, she got along fine, and she, knows how to come down to eat when food is served. I get a little bit of millet right there, but she doesn't seem interested in it right now.
Yeah.
She does eat romaine lettuce and spinach. She's had bok choy and cilantro, and she will nibble on that. She's not great at eating her greens, but we're working on it.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't offer them, she'll never get better. So
that's right.
That's what you got to keep doing.
Right.
So I see that right now she doesn't have very many toys in the cage, and obviously that's so it's easy for us to see her. But could you talk a little bit about what kind of toys she might like, or the budgies in general like?
Sure. She, yes, she was in the flight cage with my boys until this morning, and I decided that it would be better to move her out. She's now definitely a female. So I just set up this cage kind of at the last minute, and I don't have many toys in it yet, partly so that we can see her.
Yeah.
But she likes to chew on things, not plastic, but the term for it looks like plastic, but it's not really plastic.
Like the shredders kind of toys?
I don't give her shredders. I've always been concerned about budgies breeding or getting hormonal, so I don't give her things to shred. I don't give any of my budgies things to shred, although maybe I should. But I haven't been doing that, except for like their lettuce. Sometimes they kind of shred that. They do, she does like things to chew on. In her old cage, there were bells, and she liked to ring the bells. That kind of thing, and just things to move around and play with, balls inside something else where she could move the ball and around.
Yeah.
She loves mirrors. I did not put mirrors in yet. We'll put more mirrors in for her. She does like mirrors. She likes her.
I think I know what word you were hunting for. Acrylic toys?
Acrylic. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, that's it, Katie.
Yeah, those are good for a lot of kinds of birds because they're very durable. They're very safe.
Right.
And they come in a lot of bright colors and interesting shapes. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. Yes. She does like her in the flight cage, the birds have a boing, and she used to love, that was one thing she would use to get from the bottom to the top of the cage was walk her way up in circles up the boing. And
got it.
She liked that very much.
Got it.
So I think she would do fine in a flight cage with other birds. Probably not an aviary, not something as large as a real aviary, but a cage that's sort of your typical cube flight cages. And she really enjoyed having the company of especially one of my other budgies, whom you could probably hear in the background.
Yes, I do.
So yes, they're quite upset to have been separated. He was chirping at them quite loudly earlier this morning. But so she's definitely a very social bird when it comes to other budgies.
Well, speaking of other budgies, can we meet Pepper now? So here is Pepper.
Yes.
Looks like Pepper is on some kind of a very soft cage liner there.
Yes, that's right. It's two kind of thick flannel blankets folded a couple of times to fit the cage. Pepper came to us through Bay Area Bird Hospital, and I think that he was brought in with a broken foot.
Oh.
I'm not sure how the foot was broken, but the story that I recall hearing was that somehow a child got a hold of him, a child who was too young to know how to properly hold a bird, and broke the foot.
Oh dear.
Broken in so many places that it had to be amputated.
Oh my goodness.
So that's why, and now of course he's sitting on the floor, but you can't see him. Let me just,
I see his tail.
and you say, come on, Bubbles, F Pepper. Come on, turn around here.
There.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
So he is still recovering from that surgery. And that's
okay.
The padded bottom on the cage. And I don't know how well you can see it, but the bottom of the cage is lifted up about halfway. So the cage is only probably 12 or 13 inches tall. And it just has the two very low down rope perches. So the idea is that if he were to fall or land on the bottom of the cage, it wouldn't hurt the wound. He has a bandage on his leg, and I keep an eye on it. I catch him every day and make sure it's not bleeding or it hasn't opened up in some way.
Okay.
He looks a little odd because he has his feathers around his beak. When I first got him from the vet, they were very red, and I was worried that he had some kind of a wound, around his mouth. And it turned out that was his medicine.
Ah.
Okay. And so I've tried a couple of times just using a damp Q-tip to kind of clean that up, but it looks a little reddish, and the feathers are still a little bit out of place. But that's all that is. That will become perfectly normal. And he is a boy, as you said. He has the blue, and that does mean he's a boy. He's standing on the one foot. It's his right foot that had to be amputated. And it's still bandaged, and it still looks kind of raw. But I think it'll heal up and he'll be fine. He does fly, and he gets around pretty well, even on one foot. So you can see he's working just fine.
Yeah. So long term, what kind of special accommodations do you expect him to need?
He has a return visit to the vet in not this coming week, but the following week. I've only had him for a week.
Okay.
Less than actually 5 days. And I have to see him again in 2 weeks just to make sure the leg is healing. But I think that once the wound heals over, that he won't need any kind of special accommodations. Possibly some flat perches or to make it easier to perch. Since he flies fine and he can perch just fine on one foot, he would be considered pretty much a normal bird at that point. Aside from having some flat perches, I don't think that he would need a soft bottom cage once the wound heals up. But I will do that when I see the vet again. But he seems to be doing absolutely fine, except for the foot. And
he looks great.
Yeah, he's not on any medication anymore.
We do have an audience question and reminder for everyone. Go ahead and send us more. Okay, now we've got a couple. For one, how old is Pepper? It sounds like he's probably pretty young.
He's pretty young, yes. He still has some faint little stripes on his forehead.
Oh, okay.
I would say he's probably about 8 months would be my best guess.
Got it. Okay. And then as we're coming close to the end of our time, but how friendly is Pepper given the amount of vet care and handling he's had? And do you have a sense of his personality yet? I know you haven't had him for very long.
He will come get close to me when there's millet. He hasn't yet stepped in my hand, but he doesn't freak out if I put my hand in with some millet. He'll come over and eat it. I think that especially because he's young, he'd be easy to train to step up and that kind of thing.
Okay. Got it. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Pepper before we go and meet a couple cockatiels?
I don't think so. He's been a very pleasant little bird to have. He's a very sweet little bird and seems to enjoy the company of other birds. You can hear them talking. So
Yeah.
People make a very fine little bird for somebody.
Yeah, he looks like a really cute little guy. I'm having some Budgie envy myself right at the moment, I have to admit.
He's available.
Well, thank you, Amy, for your time. And now we will go and visit Basil and Liza and Martha, their foster person.
Hi, Katie.
Hi. Nice to meet you. These two, can you tell us a little bit about them? Who's who?
Let's see. Basil is the normal gray on the right there by the door, and Liza is the pearl girl on the left. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, the lighter colored one. Oh, and it looks like there's somebody else on top of their cage, maybe.
Yes,
some birdie else.
Yes. Bishop and Joey are very curious boy cockatiels that just have to be around wherever anybody else is. So, yeah.
Great. We get a package deal here. So can you tell us a little bit about Basil and Liza? How did they come to Nicaboo?
Basil was a stray, apparently. Okay, Joey's going to sing for us now. Basil was a stray. He came to us under a year old, so he still had a lot of the spots and stripes that young cockatiels have. But quickly grew out his feathers. He was missing most of his tail feathers when he came in, and then so I had him, and that was 2016. We got him, and Liza was, I believe, a stray found at probably San Jose shelter, and was previously with another foster home. But I brought her to my place because one of my fosters at the time had lost his pearl girl mate, and I just thought he had to have another one, and I brought her, and apparently she was just way too pale for him. She was not the right pearl for him. Fortunately,
but Basil,
he's been adopted and now has the perfect pearl for him. So yeah.
We're getting some compliments from the audience on Joey's singing in the background.
He's very sweet. He's about like 19 years old, and he just is. He adores Bishop and follows him around everywhere. And they are not currently in cages, so they're a little difficult to spotlight.
Continuing the questions, is Joey available for adoption?
Everybody that's here is available for adoption, yes. But Joey is going to need to have a friend. He's going to need to have some guy to hang out with. So that's just
pretty much all cockatiels do. Like Budgies, they live in large social groups in the wild. So
but he particularly needs a boyfriend. I guess. Yeah, the guy.
Okay.
I put Basil and Liza together just because they had previously been out flighted. I used to have everybody in an aviary, and he just courted her, and now they're bonded. And I just said, okay, you guys are sharing a cage now. So I would like for them to be adopted together.
Okay. Sort of a similar question from the audience. If someone already has a cockatiel, what's a good way to make sure that another, potential adoptee would get along with their existing cockatiel?
I think it's one thing is knowing your bird, and then knowing what the other bird is. How they interact with other birds at all. If you only have a single cockatiel, you may not have any idea how they are going to react to another bird. So sometimes it's just going to be hard to tell, and that's why we do have a 60-day return policy about where you would get your money back if the birds didn't work out, just so you can get through quarantine and
then have some time for them to meet each
other. Exactly. Yeah. But as I said, I can tell from my birds how they react to females, because I only have 2 females and a bunch of boys here. I know how they just react to other birds. So I can tell you whether any of my fosters are going to be a good fit for what you think your bird is looking for. And generally, as long as you don't have too many birds and you have a lot of space, two birds are probably going to two cockatiels will get along just fine. They may not be best buddies, but they'll keep each other company, and that's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about Liza and Basil's favorite toys? I see they've got an assortment in there. Is there anything they're particularly fond of?
They do almost all of these birds like to shred things, soft paper shredders. They really love newspaper, but part of that's because they want to nest, I think. I don't know if you can see the toy way in the back, but that is a lot of crinkle cut paper and little strippy things that they can just pull out and nibble on and drop. They love the cuddle bone that I have in there to just chew and kind of wrestle with. It's really good exercise for them to play with their toys. They do things that I just think, how is that even fun? But it's they love it.
One quick clarification, and everybody loves Joey. It sounded like you might have said everybody except Joey is up for adoption, but I think
no,
Joey
everybody is. Okay. Everybody is, yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to be clear about the fact that he needs to be adopted someplace that he has a special friend. So
got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what do Basil and Liza like to eat?
Well, of course, seed. Every cockatiel loves seed, but they get nutrient cakes, which is a pellet and cake combination that is good for feeding, especially if you're trying to do weight management. And it's available through your veterinarians. Avian vets will have it. They do like to nibble on romaine lettuce, beet greens, kale, cilantro or parsley. As was mentioned, they love the stems. They just really like little delicate things to chew on. They'll chew on carrot if it's presented properly. I do know that some cockatiels do like, and budgies definitely like, a kind of a broccoli and carrot slaw. So again, shredded really fine, something they can. I know that cockatiels, they just don't seem to like things that are too difficult to handle. It's got to be just right.
Yeah, they're pretty laid back little birds.
Yeah.
Question from our Facebook audience: do either of these cockatiels step up?
They will if they're outside of the cage and they want to go back someplace. But right now they're not particularly hand tame. I think that it wouldn't take much to get them to be that. They've finally gotten used to being in a cage again. So I think that it is time to get them to being on the step up program.
Got it. So how big of a cage do we recommend for cockatiels?
This one is, I think it's 30 inches. It's a standard flight cage. So you want to make sure it's wide or long and, deep enough. And I would say that it's probably like, I haven't even measured it. It's something like 32 long by about 25 high and 22 deep, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, and that we do recommend that cages be wider rather than taller, because for the most part, the birds are going to find a comfy spot they like relatively high up in the cage and then go back and forth. Right. And so if you have a really tall, narrow cage, then you actually have wasted space rather than space they're super comfortable using. So
right, and you don't want to have anything round because you want them to have some corner that they can get into if they want to. And as I was mentioning before about having two birds that aren't necessarily friends, but as long as they have enough space, you have a large enough cage, they can cohabit pretty well. And also 1/2 inch bar spacing. It shouldn't be wider than 5/8 of an inch, because otherwise they could get their heads or wings stuck.
Yeah, that's actually a really important consideration for small birds. Sometimes it's hard to find good cages for Budgies, Cockatiels, lovebirds for that reason. It's hard to find a sturdy cage that has a narrow enough bar spacing for them. So
Right.
That's the kind of detail we get into in our class. So we don't need to spend too much time on it here, but it is important. Let's see. Do you have any idea if they are good with children or like good in a household with a family?
I think it would be okay with older children, but just they all seem to be, I guess, reactive. They react to what's going on outside, or just earlier they listened to one of the budgies sort of chittering, and that just set everybody off. So they would like a home that is, where they can have a room and they can be, they can hang out and you can hang out with them, but maybe not be in just the middle of everything. Maybe, so that's, I think they would like that, but they definitely like looking out the window. Definitely like that.
Got it. Okay. So we're almost ready to go and meet Peela, the ringneck parakeet. But before we do that, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about Basil and Liza or about Joey? our off-camera star.
You get three for two here. Boy, that just kind of threw me. Basil and Liza are just, I just think they're beautiful. And I know that that's something that people tend to look for. And if you're looking for birds that would just really, enhance your life and you get occasional song because Basil will sing, he will whistle, and he's just, and we'll let you know what's going on. Oh yes, Joey, I know. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's Spurtle. Spurtle is now singing. Yeah. Spurtle.
We should have an entire cockatiel adoption fair at your house sometime.
Yeah, that would be great.
Well, thank you so much, Martha. And thank you to Basil and Liza. Thank you to them for being patient with their photobombing co-stars. Taryn, welcome. And Peela, hi. I have to confess, I don't know all that much about ringneck parakeets, but I know there's more than one variety. What kind is Peela?
Yeah, so Pila is an Indian ringneck parakeet, which kind of gives you an idea of where they're from. And yeah, her name means yellow in Hindi because she is from that area of the world.
Okay, yeah. I wondered what it meant. So can you tell me a little bit about Peela and how long has she been with Mickaboo and with you?
Yeah, so she's only been with me for about 3 weeks, I think, less than a month, but she's doing fantastic. She came to us from a woman who, when she got her, she didn't really know that much about birds, and maybe when she had Peela, she kind of realized that they're a lot more work than she thought. So she ended up giving us Peela, but she is a fantastic bird, and she's doing like really well for what we, for that kind of situation.
So I notice you're calling her she. How can you tell that Peela is a girl?
Yeah, so Indian ringnecks have a black ring around their neck. We call her a she because she doesn't have that ring yet, but she's not really to the age where that will start developing. So we'll know for sure if she's a girl in probably 6 months to a year, but right now we just call her a girl since she doesn't have that ring yet.
And Zoom or in Facebook, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go here. So what does Peela like to eat?
So right now she's having a little snack of tomatoes and grapes, but I think she's only eating the grapes, of course. But she usually gets pellets in the morning, and then she'll get chop in the evening, and she eats really, really well. She's eating like huge amounts of chop that should have lasted us probably 2 months. She's eating in 1 month. So she's definitely a good eater.
Can you tell us just a little bit about what chop is for the audience who are not familiar with it?
Sure, yeah. So my chop includes a good, well-balanced chop will include a lot of veggies, and then some grains and beans as well. So she really, really likes the beans, and she was only eating those at first, but now we've gotten her to start eating the veggies too. And so that's like orange veggies like carrots and sweet potato, and then a bunch of dark green veggies as well.
Okay. So we got a couple audience questions here. What kind of pellets does she eat?
So Pila eats bird tricks pellets, which are the best pellets that I've found, because they don't include corn or soy, and they include a very, very small amount of sunflower seed. Those are the ones that she's on, and they're also cold pressed, so they have like a lot of nutrients in them.
Got it. These are two related questions, well, kind of related in my mind anyways. Would she be good with kids, and is she friendly and easy to handle?
So she is very, very young. So she hasn't really hit the time in her life where she's like confident enough to really say no when she doesn't want something to happen. So I would say in that regard, she is good with kids because she doesn't bite, but it's going to have to be very well monitored to make sure that, she's not being annoyed and that body language is being respected so that she won't develop that biting habit later in life.
Got it. Yeah. So it's actually a really important time to be monitoring her and the people she interacts with pretty closely.
Yeah.
I heard she can do some tricks, and she has a little hanging thing that she does.
Yeah, let's see if she'll do it. She's been eating, so she might not do it. Here we go. And then she also does her little wave. Say hi, Peela. Wait, let's see. Say hi. Oh, she's on my finger, so she say hi. Oh, she won't do that right now, but she did her hang, so that was good.
So are you actively working with her on learning some little tricks and things?
Yeah, I am. She's doing really, really well with training, like basic training for like stationing to make sure that she stays in one spot. Because a big issue we are having is her flying on us, and when she wants like attention and we're doing other things. So she'd probably be best suited for somebody who's able to give her very direct attention instead of that ambient attention. Being her. Yeah, that would probably be best.
You mentioned that she's really young. Is having a teenage ringneck parakeet like having a teenage human in your house?
Well, I don't know too much about ringnecks specifically because I haven't had one that long term, but just from what I know about most birds in general, I would say yes. When they start getting to that phase of reaching maturity, that can be a kind of difficult time, kind of acting out and those kinds of things.
Yeah. Makes having some positive training things in place really helpful.
Absolutely.
So what is Pila's favorite thing to do if she's just hanging out with you?
So she loves playing with whatever I have in my hand, obviously making sure those are safe things for her. So I generally will have a toy with me at all times to make sure she can have something to play with. She loves shredder toys and kind of soft wood like yucca or those kinds of things. She doesn't really like those kinds of hardwoods like the wood blocks.
Another audience question: could she be an only bird?
Yeah, absolutely. The one thing is like I said before, the adopter of her will need to give her very, very specific and specialized attention. So if the way they can do that is by just having one bird, then that would be fantastic. But she would also be suited for being around other birds, I think, to give her that attention as well. Maybe not directly with them. She's never been with another bird before, so I don't know how she reacts in those kinds of situations, but I know being around birds and hearing them, she does enjoy that. So I think either situation would be really great for her.
Got it. We do have an audience question about the pellet brand. Can you say that again and maybe spell it? It's not one that's familiar to me, frankly.
Yeah, so I would also recommend, a lot of people in Mickaboo feed Harrison's. So that's a brand that most of us know. I feed Bird Tricks pellets. It's from a company that basically does a lot of training with birds, and so yeah, I really like those pellets, but other brands, Tops and Harrison's, are really good brands as well.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, once you mentioned that they do a lot of the training stuff, then yeah, birdtricks.com, it clicked for me.
Yeah.
What happens when you're trying to do something else and Pila is trying to get your attention? And how is that working out for you guys?
Yeah, so she will fly onto me, and she has gotten a couple of my keyboard keys, so that's one thing we're trying to deal with. But that's kind of normal for birds. But she will just crawl all over me and kind of aggressively preen. And we've even noticed her, I don't know if she's actively plucking, but we have noticed that under one of her wings is a little bit plucked. So we're just watching for that, because she does get kind of in that aggressive hormonal state. So we're trying to keep her in her cage when we're doing other things, and then keep her out doing really direct attention with her. And she's been doing really great with that.
Yeah, it seems like that might set fair expectations for her of like, you're in your cage, so now you're doing your own thing, and you're out, so now we're really interacting. That seems like a good idea. Another audience question: does Pila do well with other birds? Do you have other birds in the house right now?
I don't have any other birds in the house, and as far as I know, the woman who had her before didn't have any other birds, I don't think. So I don't know how she would react with other birds. I play bird sounds for her sometimes, and she will sing and enjoy that. So as I said before, she might do well with having other birds in other cages around. But yeah, we're just not really sure yet.
Okay. Let's see. What size is her cage? What is it like when she is having her alone time?
Yeah, so her cage, I believe it's 21 by 21. It's too small for a ringneck, actually, so it should be, she should have a bigger cage. The reason we have it is just because she is young, so she's a little bit smaller than what she'll be at full size. And also, since it's temporary, it should work for now, and she's out of the cage a lot. But it should probably be like 5 more inches in each direction to make sure that she had plenty of room.
Okay, so it sounds like kind of similar dimensions to what we were just talking about with the cockatiels, of about 30 inches wide.
Yeah.
And pretty much always wider cages are better. So we're coming to the end of our time, but we have one more audience question. Do you think she would be okay around other species of birds, not interacting with them, but just like with other birds in their cages in the household?
Yeah, I think that she would do well with that. Probably birds around the same size as her is probably best. And yeah, as far as I can tell, she doesn't have any like aggression or anything when she sees other birds. And so I think she would do well in those kinds of situations.
Okay, and we're not done yet. Another question. What toys does she like?
She loves, like I was saying, she loves shredder toys and kind of softwood toys. I wish I had one right around me. But yes, kind of like paper, or kind of that tissue paper feel, a really soft kind of and then softwoods like yucca as well. And she does do foraging toys like this. I have this little guy here that kind of opens up, and you can put stuff inside. She does foraging really well, and then we'll also do boxes, like cardboard boxes, and put paper inside with treats, and she does good with that as well.
Okay. Does she like misting or showers or taking a bath? How does she like to bathe?
Yeah, so I'm so excited about this actually because I just started getting her to bathe. So I'll actually put I have a shower perch for her that suctions to the wall. I'll put her on the shower perch, and at first she would only like flip out her wings when she heard the water, but not under the water. But then I just put the water against the wall, so it was kind of raining down on the wall. And now she will totally go underneath the water and bathe herself in the shower. So yeah, it's really, really cute to watch.
That's great. So we're going to move on in just a moment to meet a pair of Mickaboo's Amazon, but are there any last things you'd like to tell us about Peela?
I don't think so. Yeah, she's a really, really great bird. And yeah, I think she would do great in almost any situation. So yeah, I'm excited to see where she goes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Taryn. Bye-bye, Pila. So now for our very last segment, we're going to do something a little different. We have a pair of Amazons named Chico and Zoe, who have been in their foster home for just about 6 weeks now, I think. And we have our Amazon coordinator, Sophia, here to talk with me about Chico and Zoe and about our Amazons in general while we watch this video of them. These two birds are really cute. They've got a lot to say, it seems.
Yes. This is Chico and Zoe. Zoe is the bird in front. She's a lilac crown Amazon. And the bird with the white above his beak there in the back is Chico. And Chico and Zoe share a cage. They're very dedicated to each other. They came to Mickaboo from an older woman who was a home health care worker. She had to go to a client's house where she had to move in, and she could not take her birds with her. Of course, she was very, very heartbroken. So these birds don't have medical problems and have had good care for their life. Which is different than a lot of birds we get in Mickaboo.
Can you tell me how old they are approximately? Do we know?
Yes. Chico, which is the white front, he is about 31 years old. And Chico's mom bought Zoe as a companion for Chico. Zoe is about 19 years old, the lilac crown. And both of these Amazons are smaller Amazons. So Amazons come in different sizes. Our white front here, Chico, is the smallest kind of Amazon that you can get. So he's really small. And we know that Chico is a male because most Amazons you can't tell by looking, but white fronts are one of the species where you can. So because he's got some beautiful red shoulders, we can tell that he is a male. Zoe, we don't know for sure if Zoe is male or female.
So yeah, okay. So by the shoulders, you mean right up at the top of their wings, right? Or maybe he'll show us. I don't know.
I don't know if he'll show us, but since their wings are like our human arms, the shoulder would be at the top of their wing.
Got it. So it seems like they're pretty relaxed, just hanging out in their cage. Is this sort of a normal way the pair of Amazons might spend their time in someone's home?
Yes, for these two it is. Zoe is very laid back, and actually, so he's Chico as well. These are really, Amazons are not beginner birds, but these two are really pretty easy for an Amazon. For Amazons, they're quite easy. So they're not overly aggressive. You can see by the video that they're interested in the video. They're interested in people. Chico used to fly to his mom's shoulder. He is very particular about who he likes, and he hasn't really gotten over losing his mom, the surrenderer. So he hasn't done that since. He will follow you around by walking on the floor. Zoe has been known to step up, and they both are very good flyers. They're excellent flyers, and Zoe can even make a turn in a hall to another room. So that's something to keep in mind for their safety. You can trim their wings, but if you're in a safe environment where you don't trim their wings, they're very good flyers.
And there are a lot of benefits for birds who can fly in terms of getting enough exercise and keeping their balance and things. So it seems like you would want to do that if it's feasible.
Right. Just like us with COVID, we've kind of become caged birds where we sit at home and eat. And most of us have gained weight. Well, Amazons are the same way. If they're a perched potato and they like to eat, so they get weight gain. So it's good if you can get that exercise in that they need.
I just saw that Chico was doing a little thing with his tail back there a minute ago where it was kind of spreading out. Is that keeping balance, or is that some kind of a body language thing?
So he's excited. He's excited if he flares his tail. So he's either interested in the video or what's happening behind the video. It could be a time also when he might bite, because when they're excited, they might bite. So that would be a time you'd want to be, if you see pinning eyes and a flared tail, you've got an excited Amazon. So you just need to be careful around them. Once you get to know the bird, I mean, I have a bird myself, an Amazon, who will do that, and I can still pick him up when he's like that. But other birds, I have another one which I would not touch when her tail is flared. She's just overexcited. And
so we have a couple of audience questions about, do they mimic words or sounds or talk?
So Chico and Zoe have squeaky little bird voices, so it doesn't sound as much like a human as some other types. However, they do talk. Chico says Zoe, and when you are making, they're very good healthy eaters. They eat pellets, Harrison's pellets, and they both like fruits and vegetables. And when you are making their food, they let you know that they're excited about that. They say andale, which in Spanish means, like
faster, faster. Yeah.
And they say, and they say, come on, because they want you to, they're ready for their fruits and veggies, and they want you to they want service,
Yeah.
Like any good Amazon, they need service.
Would you say they are one-person birds? It sounds like they're still getting over losing their former home, so that may not be apparent yet.
Exactly. I would say almost all Amazons are on the spectrum towards one-person birds, but they can adapt to a few family members. I mean, I wouldn't expect them to like every person they see. That would never happen. But they need somebody who's willing to work with them, give them consistency. And I think that they could really thrive under those circumstances. They are not overly aggressive birds. They're not overly loud birds for Amazons. So they're really good birds that just need somebody to make the commitment to give them a lot of attention.
Another audience question. It sounds like they're a bonded pair. Should they be adopted together?
Yes, they have to stay together. They're very dedicated to each other. And it would be cruel to separate them.
Okay. And very timely to what we're seeing in the video here right now. Do they play with toys? And just see, yes. I see them playing with the bell. So
Chico's ringing his bell for us, and they both a little bit in the video have chewed on that wood a little bit. Amazons generally like to make toothpicks into wood and wood toys, and that's what they should do. That keeps them busy and happy. I've had some people tell me, I don't buy my birds toys because they chew them up. Well, that's the point.
Yes, yes, yes.
The point is, you want to buy toys that they chew up. That's keeping them busy. There they go, a little bit on the toy.
Okay. Do they like to take baths?
I don't know that much about the bathing for Chico and Zoe. I do know that all Amazons, since they live in a humid environment, obviously in Central America or South America or Mexico, where they're from, or the Caribbean, I like to always use a spray bottle to humidify the area. So every day I kind of just spray the water up in the air so they can breathe in some of that humidity, and they let me know if they want more. They will put their wings out and really get into it if they're in the mood for a bath.
Can you remind us about their ages? Sounds like late teens and 20s.
Yeah, Chico, I believe, is about 31 years old, and Zoe is about 19.
Got it. Yeah. Another audience question. Since they stay andale, did the previous owner speak Spanish to them?
I don't know if she did. I guess she must have somewhat. But I don't know that. I don't think it was her first language or anything like that, but she must have been bilingual.
Yeah. And a question that I always consider serious, but especially for Amazons, what kind of life expectancy can you expect with Amazon ferrets?
I would say at least 50 years or more. There's a lot of variability, but they definitely, especially these two that have been given really good care their whole life, I would expect that they would live well beyond 50 years.
Yeah, well, that's a really, really serious commitment. That's like a marriage, really.
More.
Yeah.
If you're me. Just kidding.
Well, just for the context. So let me just check. I think I caught most of the questions from our audience. We do have a lot of questions about appropriate toys, and I was hoping that all of our foster parents could maybe weigh in a little bit on that here at the end. But is there any last topics that you'd like to cover about Chico and Zoe before we go back to?
No, they're just looking for somebody who could, spend a lot of time with them, and I think they would come along and be very social if they had given a lot of time and patience. It would take a few months for them to adjust to any new home. Yeah. And one plus they do have is, since they're a pair, if you aren't able to spend that time with them, they don't suffer like a lone bird would do. Yeah. So they're a little easier in that respect. But if you did give them that attention, then they would be very friendly as well.
Okay. Another question for you. Someone who has had conures previously, would an Amazon be like a conure?
Oh, I prefer Amazons to conures myself. I've had lots of different birds. I'm the Amazon coordinator because I love Amazons. Conures are more constant. Amazons can be loud. Conures, in my experience, the ones that I've had, are more constant noise. And if you have something like a Nande, it depends on what kind of conure, but a Nande, oh my goodness, much louder than any Amazon that I've had as far as constant,
Okay.
But of course, there's variability, just like people. There's variability. I'm a really loud person, so I'm not going to be. I think
sometimes we underestimate that about birds, about how much they have their own individual manners and preferences and ways of being. So yeah, it's a really important point.
And hard to believe as it is, we do have some Amazons that are quite quiet, which amazed me at the beginning because I never thought that would be a possibility. But now, knowing what I know about Amazons, we actually get some that are pretty quiet. So,
well,
but
and
there's
to that point,
yeah,
if people have more questions about Amazons, you can reach us with your Amazon specific questions at coordinator-amazon@mickaboo.org, and that will make its way to Sophia. And I believe we just put that email link up for our audience here in chat.
Wonderful. Thank you. I look forward to hearing from someone. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Sophia. And thank you to the foster parents for putting together that great video. That was really helpful. Just to see the birds in their home, in their cage. So that's all the birds we have time to meet today. If you fell in love with any of these birds, please get in touch with us. If you've already started the adoption process, great. If you haven't, you can start by signing up for our basic bird care class. The next one is on Saturday, the 3rd of April, and it's approximately every 2 weeks. You can find the link to learn more about it and to sign up at nicaboo.org/basic-bird-care-class. If nobody here seemed like the right bird, that is okay. We have about 400 birds available, and you can meet and get to know many of them, and they're all available for adoption on our website, mickaboo.org. Few more things before we sign off. First, thank you to you, our audience, for joining us for the March edition of our virtual adoption fair. We will be having another one in April, so you can join us on Saturday the 24th, and we'd love to see you again. Second, please do remember that we are a donation-funded nonprofit, and not all the birds that come to us are lucky enough to be like Chico and Zoe and who have come from a home where they arrived to us healthy. So if you would like to support things like the x-ray we're going to need to do for Cirrus's air sac problem, or Pepper the Budgies foot amputation, you can donate to us at paypal.me/Mickaboo or at mickaboo.org/donate/donate-funds. And we would be grateful for any support you can provide. Third, I'd like to thank all of our foster parents and their birds for being brave enough to come and be on video and talk with us this afternoon. And I'd also like to thank all the people working behind the scenes on the technical angles required to put on an event like this and keep it running smoothly. And please stick with us through the credits to see who all those people were. And we're going to provide you with a link to the survey so that we can understand your experience joining us for this class, so that we can, or this event, so that we can learn how to improve for the future. We're going to keep monitoring the Q&A tab for any further questions you have. And before we go out to our credits, I would like to ask our foster parents to comment on brands or types of toys that they like, because we have a wide range of birds here, and a number of different homes, and we did get a lot of audience questions today about toys. So, okay, we got a couple of examples rolling in. Bonka Bird Toys, Planet Pleasures. Sophia, maybe we could go back to you just for any suggestions you have about toys that are good for Amazons.
Sorry about that delay. Amazons, you know, they like all kinds of toys, but generally any kind of wood toy, so that they can put in wood pick, chew into toothpicks. They like to chew wood apart. Of course, there's always variation. So they really like toys. I have toys with straws that my birds really like. When the plastic straws are part of the toy, they love that too. Like the straw is threaded through a string, you know, an appropriate hemp string. And it's a big, huge, like 100 of them tied together. They love that.
Oh boy. Working backwards, Taryn, also, you mentioned that Peela likes wood toys. I'm going to guess you might have some similar recommendations, but let's check and see.
Yeah, I don't have any specific brands I can think of because I make a lot of my toys. But I think wood toys are really, really great. Anything natural, completely natural, because somebody mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that your bird can destroy it because that's the whole point. So yeah, anything like that, and balsa or anything. Yeah, I think that's
okay. And Martha, you also had mentioned that things that can be chewed and destroyed were favorites in your house.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just looking up the place that I've been buying the most from. One is Molly's Bird Toys, and the other one is called A Bird Toy, and they're out of Arkansas. And I just really like the designs, and there's a lot of like willow balls and Chinese finger traps, and just a lot of things that are really easy for them to shred. So those would be my suggestions just off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. That makes me remember one thing that I tend to look for is rabbit toys. A lot of rabbit toys are made of willow and are safe for birds to chew on.
Yes, yes.
So yeah, that's another one. Amy, do you have any favorite sources or types of toys for budgies?
There we go. The budgies really love bells and mirrors. I found some bells that are not the cheap aluminum kind that are not good for them that they enjoy, and they really like boing. I just recently got them a boing, which is like a rope perch that swirls, you know, down, and they love just running up and down that thing, and when they jump to it or from it, it kind of bounces. And
I can see one moving behind your left shoulder right now,
yeah.
actually. Yeah,
I moved, I moved my birds around so you can see. Yeah, they love the boing. So I need to get boings for my other two birds that are in the other cages.
Got it.
Like I say, I haven't really set them up completely yet, but mirrors and boings and things that move. And I've always had questions in my own mind about things that shred, because Dr. Van Sant says don't, especially if a bird has any tendency to become hormonal, shredding encourages nesting behaviors. Stay away from that. Although I have some shredding toys, and maybe I should offer them to them, especially if they're, you know, just, you know, in a single gender cage, maybe. Okay. But I'm not sure. So I would welcome advice from people about that. Apparently a lot of people like them, and
yeah, I certainly do. One of the advantages of Nicaboo is that we do have relationships with avian specialty vets who, and, you know, always talking to your own vet about the needs of your particular birds is always a really good idea.
Exactly. And we've got all the other volunteers, the Mickaboo volunteers, which are a tremendous resource for experience. Yeah.
All right. And then let's check in with Susanna as well, also with Budgies, of were there any particular brands or types of toys that you really recommend?
I would put a plug in for swings. Sapphire in particular loves her swing at night. She always immediately hops up the minute the cover goes over the cage. But that's, it's really fun to watch them swinging.
Okay, yeah. Two more recommendations from some of our tech people behind the scenes. mysafebirdstore.com and 8beaks.com. Both have great toys. So thank you everyone for joining us. If you have more questions, please do keep them coming. We'll be monitoring our Q&A for a couple more minutes here as we wrap up. And I do hope that some of you took the quiz, so the little survey, so that we can learn from your experience today. Thank you so much for joining us.